1964. The first Ford Mustang from Ford Motor Company is built. Cassius Clay beats Sonny Liston for the World Heavyweight Championship. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. receives the Nobel Peace Prize. A loaf of bread was 21 cents while gas was 30 cents a gallon. And a date to the movies with your sweetheart was a steep $2.50. The Supremes, Bob Dylan, and who can forget the Beatles? 1964 was a year to remember, especially in the city of Tuscaloosa. When you think of Tuscaloosa, what comes to mind? Is it the Black Warrior River? Or is it the Crimson Tide? In the 1960s, it was not as pleasant for African Americans in Tuscaloosa. Just a year before, Governor Wallace tried to stop African Americans from attending the University of Alabama, and the right to drink from the same fountain was prohibited. Have you ever heard of Bloody Tuesday?
No.
Never heard of it.
I'm doing a documentary on Bloody Tuesday. Have you all ever heard of Bloody Tuesday?
No.
No.
Bloody Tuesday was a civil rights event, very well known, actually infamous in the city of Tuscaloosa, Alabama. It was led by the great T.Y. Rogers, who was the pastor of First African Baptist Church. Reverend T.Y. Rogers gathered about 30 men and women, and they marched from the First African Baptist Church to the Tuscaloosa County Courthouse to try to desegregate the restrooms and the water fountains. So that's just a little of the knowledge that I have about Bloody Tuesday.
Professor Linda Beto. I teach African American Heritage at Stillman College. I was going to tell you a little bit about Bloody Tuesday and how it happened and the significance of Stillman students participating in the desegregation of the city. Stillman students had heard about Rosa Parks, and so they decided not to sit on the back seat of the bus, the city bus that takes them to town. And this, of course, was in 1965, and the bus driver refused to let them off at Stillman and took them to Alberta City, which they got beaten and stomped and all that bad thing. So the ministers, including Reverend Linton, decided that they cannot do this to our children, and they started having the mass meetings at the church. And on Bloody Tuesday, they were going to march to the new courthouse, the downtown, the new courthouse that was now going to be built and finished. And they had asked that they not put those signs up, whites only for the restrooms. But the county decided that since the governor of the state was appearing, they would indeed put the signs up. And so all of this was precursor to the Bloody Tuesday. So once they started, the police came in and started throwing the smoke bombs and beating them. Mrs. Willie Mae Ike Wells was a participant, and she was arrested. And she works here at Stillman College. She's a Stillman graduate as well as a secretary.
June 9th, 1964. A group of peaceful civil rights marchers were beaten, tear-gassed, and arrested. The purpose of the march was to desegregate the restrooms and drinking fountains in the Tuscaloosa County Courthouse. 94 were arrested and over 30 people were injured. This day is better known as Bloody Tuesday.
June 9, 1964 was an exciting day. This is kind of like the apex of what we have been preparing ourselves for. We have been going to the mass meetings, and we have been singing and rejoicing and praying and preparing ourselves to be one body with one mission.
On the recommendation of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Reverend T.Y. Rogers came to Tuscaloosa in 1964 to become pastor of the First African Baptist Church. He is credited with providing key leadership in Bloody Tuesday.
First African Baptist Church. And we were going to march. We were going in that courthouse and we were going to drink some water out of that white water fountain. fountain. And so it was an exciting day. And when we arrived there at the church, we saw the mob crowd. But it was as if we were oblivious to that crowd. When we departed the church in our quest to integrate the Tuscaloosa County Courthouse, we were marched out of the church, and as we suspected, our leaders were arrested. And we were then people were then being forced back into the church by the police, the state troopers, all who had either bully clubs, they had cattle prods, and of course they had their batons. And then you had the mob crowd that you had to contend with too. And they were there, and they were prepared with sticks and axe handles and rocks and bricks and bottles and all kinds of whatever they could find, put their hands on, plus all of the clamor that was going on out there, you know, the N-words and all of that. And so people were forced back in the church. My brother and I never made it out of the front entrance of the church. So we were still inside of the church because many people were still in the church. And we were... tear gas and all were being thrown in the church, but we had made it out of the church through the back entrance of the church. And we were arrested on the next street, which was 10th Street, at what is now the Murphy Collins Museum. As we started to put our foot into the street, the police car drove up, and we were arrested and taken to jail. And my brother was released from jail earlier than I. He got out that same night. I was still in jail the next day and got out later that evening. The question might come to mind that, well, naturally people will want to know, were people able to make it to the courthouse? You couldn't because you were in jail, but did others make it? No, they didn't. But we still had the victory because we had stood as a people together and said, we don't care what you do or what you say. You cannot take away our God-given rights. We have fought and we have won. You know, the battle is not over. And within a few weeks, we were able to walk into the county courthouse 2 by 2, walk to that water fountain, drink that water, and go to use that restroom. In the name of Jesus, we give him the glory because it was all God's doing, not ours.
We shall overcome. Deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome. Though I've joined hands so often with students and others behind jail bars singing it, we shall overcome. Sometimes we've had tears in our eyes when we joined together to sing it, but we still decided to sing it. We shall overcome. No, before this victory is won, some will have to get thrown in jail some more, but we shall overcome. Don't worry about us. Before the victory is won, some of us will lose jobs, but we shall overcome. Before the victory is won, even some will have to face physical death. But if physical death is the price that some must pay to free their children from a permanent psychological death, then nothing shall be more redemptive. We shall overcome. Before the